October of last year. I come to the rise, and it was really with a pure intention, and that was to catch a PB, which is a bit of a statement these days, because like most of us just go carp fishing because we love it, and which I do. But I decided after 15 years of the same PB, I wanted to at least give myself a chance of beating it. So the nearest lake to me with a fish that big was Essex Carp Syndicate's Rise. Now I knew there was 2 fish that could possibly beat that. One was called Pete's Fish, that is around 51 pounds, and the other is a fish called Bricktop that was around 54 to 55. Now my UK PB for the last 15 years has been £50.12. I've managed to catch a few 50s that have all been just under that, and I just wanted to have somewhere, you know, that when that bite alarm went, you got that excitement that it might be the biggest fish you're ever going to catch, and the Rise offered that. So I started in October, got off to a good start really. First 48-hour session I did, I landed a short dumpy mirror typical of this lake, around 35 pounds. Then I had a blank, a couple of night blank, came back again late October, early November, managed to catch a common of 35.10, which was the late record common. So I was quite pleased with that, really pretty carp. All the trees at that point were gold and really beautiful, and we was in full swing of autumn. Unfortunately, or fortunately, my job is in carp fishing and I have to attend all the carp shows, so the next few months, nights were slotted in between fishing shows, and as it got colder, particularly in December, we hit a real cold snap. Things just dried up for me, and no matter what I'd done, I simply just couldn't get amongst the fish, and there was only the odd one coming out. I think at one point we went about 5 weeks without a single bite. Got to January, now I'm probably 12 nights without a fish, fishing in between the shows on weekends, only doing 1 or 2 nights at a time, temperatures well below freezing. Managed to hook one on an 18-inch zig, and I was really excited to just get a bite, and as I was playing it in the dark, I switched my head torch on, and everything around me was just pure white. It was freezing cold, and as this fish come up to the net, it hadn't managed to drop the lead on the zig, and it was shaking its head, and it come off, and it was well over 40 pounds. It wasn't just a 40 pounder, it was probably one of the 7 fish in here that are over 47 pound. But I was a bit gutted. Got back the week later, again fish zigs this time, nothing. Come back the week after that, after yet another show, and there was a change in temperature, really unusual temperatures for January. It was about 10-11 degrees, and I did feel really confident. I put the rods out that day and I just had that feeling something was going to happen. Nothing happened the first day, but the next afternoon I received a bite and caught a 26 pound linear, and I was happy just to catch a fish after, you know, probably into 14 nights now through the winter without a bite. Anyway, it went a bit crazy that day. I ended up with another small one, about 17 pounder common, then a 22 pounder, and then I caught a very short fat fish known as a pig, like a beach ball, at 41 pounds, which, although it weren't the best looking carp in the world, in January any 40 pounders, you know, acceptable. As I was packing up on that day, the rod went again and had an absolutely stunning 33.12 fully scaled. So it's sort of them blanks were forgotten, and that raise in temperature had given me fish really. It's nice to know sometimes, you know, that you've been doing it right and they're simply not having it. And other than fishing baits, you know, in the winter that work, like maggots and crumb and zigs, you sort of get to a bit where you're at a loss whether you're doing things right or wrong. So when it does go right for you, it instills confidence into you. Well, look at that, 33 pounds, 12 ounces of fully scaled mirror. And I tell you what, it's probably one of the best looking carp I've ever caught. They don't really come better than this. When I was playing it, I see it come past me and the old knees were shaking. See them big plates, the whites of them as it opened and turned in its fight. Amazing carp. Get in. Over the next few weeks, had a lot of work on a lot of shows. Couldn't really get down much. I managed another 2-nighter where I didn't catch anything. There was no fish caught, and we're now about a week off of lockdown, February time, and I'd done 24 hours in one swim, and I decided to move swims down to the other end because there was a new wind, a new southwesterly. There was only 2 of us on the lake. It was like one of them days where it's bright sunshine, but it's actually quite cold. And in the morning, I received a take, landed a 19-pound common, followed really quickly by a 24-pound mirror. And I remember thinking I was happy just to, finally get a bite, because I'm probably, another 6 nights in since my last bite. And the afternoon come on, everything's packed away, gears up on the barra, and my middle rod's gone. Picked up the rod, and a ridiculous fight. This fish stripped probably 30-40 yards of line off me before I could slow it down. Eventually got her in, and it was definitely one of the bigger fish in the lake. So I weighed her, put her in a retainer. She was 46 pounds and a few ounces, and I got my stuff set up to do a self take, and just as I was doing that, the left hand rod's dropped back. I've picked that up again, another slow heavy fight, another 40-pounder in the net, and this fish pulled the scales round to 43 ounces. So for all them blanks, I'd gone and got 4 fish in a day, and 2 40-pounders, which is the way the rise seems to work. I've noticed when you get one, you tend to get 2 or 3 and then get a few blanks. So I was really keen, and then we got the news of lockdown.
The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades, and this country is not alone.
I got one more night in before lockdown, and then, as like everyone else watching this and in the country, fishing was off. I spent the next few months moping about, really. Got to walk around the lake a few times just to keep an eye on it. Fish were well active, but yeah, locked indoors was just a punishment. I haven't got an Xbox, and I went right the way through Netflix, so it was a bit of a bore. So lockdown was finally over, and for me it was like June the 16th. I couldn't wait to just sit behind a set of rods, do a bit of cooking, watch the sun go down, all the things we love about carp fishing. I turned up on the gate at about 7 o'clock that morning. Some guys had got there at 4 a.m. because they were well keen. And to be fair, I weren't really expecting to get on. I was expecting to get there, go into the draw and have to go home. But to my surprise, pleasantly, there was only 6 guys and they was allowing 10 on. So I was 6 or 7 in the draw. We come in the gate, and to be fair, I knew the swim I wanted. It was a swim called the Pipe or the Car Park. I really like them areas. It's a bit shallower than the rest of the lake, and I had a feeling the fish would be held up there or the other end. The first guys to come out the draw did pick them swims, but they picked either side, and I didn't want to squeeze in and make it uncomfortable up there for them. And I ended up down the far end of the lake, which I wasn't really displeased about because I'd seen fish down there as we were doing the draw. I got set up pretty quick and got some rods out along a reed line in about 12 foot of water. Within about 40 minutes of getting the rods out, I received a bite, got it under the rod tip, and I noticed it was the fish from the winter, the one that I'd had at 33.12. At first I wasn't sure, because to be honest, there's a few fully scaled that look like that in here, so I did re-photograph it because I wasn't 100%, but checking back it was. That evening I received another bite and landed like a very, very strong 39-pound mirror. At that point, most of the guys were tucked in their bivvies because it was an easterly wind and it was quite chilly. So I sort of managed to keep it quiet, but I knew there was no chance getting back in that swim. Too many eyes had seen it. A few other guys had fish, to be fair. There was a beautiful 37-pound mirror out up the other end. So yeah, the first session was only allowed 24 hours. I packed up in the morning really thinking that if I had another night I was on for more fish, but I had to be off. So the next week came around and there was a bit of a change in weather. It was very, very hot. It had been all week. The fish were quite lethargic, hanging round the top. But when I walked down into the swim, one thing I noticed was the tadpoles. There was absolutely thousands of them. Most of them were on the reed stems and sucking against the wood. And as I was stood there watching them, I saw 3 or 4 fish come along, and they were literally chasing them, almost like a pike with a roach. They were zigzagging all over the place. And we're not talking small fish. Some of these were 40-pound carp. The swim I wanted to be in, unfortunately, was taken, the swim known as the pipe. But the guy was packing up at 11 o'clock. So I didn't want to bug him. I just dropped my bucket in and went for a walk round and had a chat with a few of the other lads. 11 o'clock came and I'm setting up in the swim. First thing I did was net the edge and pull out 3 or 4 of these tadpoles. I cut a bit of foam up until it was a similar shape to the tadpole, so it matched them in the water. Set up a zig on 8 foot and just underarm flicked it along the reed line. Well, I think that rod was in the water probably less than 40 minutes. And the middle rod went into meltdown on the zig. I picked up the rod and it got absolutely stripped, probably 30 or 40 yards of line. Bearing in mind I'm on a 10-pound hook link, so I can't go mad on it. Really, really strong fish. Eventually I managed to get it in, and it was a 42-pound mirror, a male, very rough skin, strong, really strong. Them, I don't know why it is, them male carp are very wiry and strong, which explains probably why they fight so hard. So I was really pleased, you know, not even an hour back on the lake and I've got a 40. So the next morning came around, and with it again the sun. That swim really was like a sweat box. I looked out in the lake and there was probably 2 or 3 fish just poking their backs out on top of the surface. And I wondered if they'd take a floater. Now I've been told the rise carp don't get caught off the top. In the 15 years that the syndicate's been running, I believe there maybe's one that's come off the top. So I shot back to the van and got my floaters. One of the lads on here remarked to me that he'd been on here 4 years and he'd never seen a fish take a floater. So I started firing out the floaters, and it probably took about 20 minutes before one took a little bit of interest, then another, then another. Before I know it, I've got 20 fish going absolutely crazy on these floaters. I'm trying to set up the floater rod, my hands are shaking and sweating because I just want to get the rod out there. I flicked it out, a fish come up immediately, took it, I hooked it and it come off straight away. I was absolutely gutted, you know, because I just wanted to be the lad to catch one off the top of, you know, like not a hero, I just wanted to get one off the top that no one else had done. I quickly reset it. I made a very small change to the setup. After watching 4 or 5 fish come up and nose the bait and swim off, I got the Tipex out and I painted the hook white so it was taken away from the skyline. I put the rod back out, the float hit the surface, the floater hit the surface, and it was less than a couple of seconds and a fish has come up, the mouth's gone round it and I'm into one. This fish is going absolutely crazy like they do off the top, bolted off. Really good fight, and eventually this fish comes up, a dark black linear, and I knew the fish, I'd seen photos of it, it's an absolute beauty, and I slipped the net under her. She weighed 33 pounds and 8 ounces, and maybe the first ever carp out, is definitely the second ever off the surface in here, so it's definitely something else I'll be doing through the rest of the year, trying to get another one off the top. The day got really hot. As it wore on, a new wind sprung up, blowing down the other end, and it took all the fish with it. Eventually I could see the whole area and there was nothing. I was gutted because that big one had been in my swim for a good 24 hours and I'd not managed to get near it. And if I'm honest, I did consider going home. I went down the shop, got some nice cold water. I come back and I felt a bit keener. Opened up my weather report app and it was showing a brand new southerly wind was going to turn that evening at 6 o'clock and bring with it cloud and rain. I'd have to be a nutter to go home. These were the conditions that, you know, you're going to catch a big fish in. So I decided, I took all rods off the zigs, even though that's what I'd been catching on, and I put them out front, not far, 8 to 10 wraps over a little bit of bait. The wind started coming in about 7 or 8 o'clock that evening, and on it a few fish started to show, and I was absolutely brimming with confidence. I was sure there was going to be a take. I fell asleep probably about 11, 12 o'clock that night, and I was woke up at exactly 4:15 to a single bleep, and as it bleeped I heard the clip on the rod, just a line snap out the clip, and then there was 4 or 5 other bleeps, So it was definitely a take. I got up, leaned into the fish, and I'll be honest, I thought it was a small carp. There was a lot of head tapping, and I thought, yeah, this is one of the stockies that had put in the shut. They put about 10 fish in around 18 pound. And I'm pulling it towards me, and the rod's just tapping away, and it's kiting down to my right. And even though it's now sort of, 4:15 in the morning, it's actually light. And I see all the reeds start to move where the fish had made the reeds. I've bent into the rod, and this carp has just hit the surface. I didn't quite recognise it at first. I knew it was definitely a big carp, way bigger than 40 pound, and it bolted out these reeds, taking line, probably 20-25 yards of line, and I'm trying to control it. It's slowed down. I've turned it on the surface, and I'm slowly moving this fish back to the net. And slowly but surely I netted it, and I'm thinking, this is definitely a 40 pounder, and it weren't till I opened up that net, peered in, I realised it was bricktop. And I was blown away, the sheer width of this fish and length. It's an absolutely massive carp. And here we go. It's been a serious amount of hard work gone into this, just through baiting really, driving up here every week. And here's the result. £56, 4 ounce of UK mirror from the Rise at Essex Carp Syndicates. New PB for me as well. Incredible creature. You fish 35 years, and there's probably only a handful of moments you live for like that. And I always say you pay a lot of time, effort, blood, sweat and tears into the bank of carp, and often it gives you nothing back, but occasionally it does.